Okay, so good afternoon. I'm Jenny Hudgens. I'm the founder and president of the Strategic Implementer. With me today is my partner, Brian Looper. Brian is been with me about 5 years now. He's a consultant, but he also devotes a lot of time to running our hiring division, which we started coincidentally about 5 years ago when Brian came on board because he has an excellent skill set for that. I started my career in this industry as the COO of a fee-only RIA in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Did that for about 6 years and then went out and started this company. Brian is, I like to call, a recovering attorney. He went to law school in Southern California, passed the California bar the first time, practiced law for a few years, and decided that neither California nor the law was for him. And so, much to my delight, started coming to work with me. And it's just been a great collaboration. And again, has allowed us to start this hiring division. So what I want to talk about today is a culmination of a years of pulling together things from different sources, some work that we've done, some work that other people have done. The reason this is so important to me is that Brian and I have come to realize that everything starts with the caliber of your team. And unless you have what we call all A players on board, and I think most people know what that means, but we're going to give you some ways to identify those people. Unless you have all A players on board, it is going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to take your firm where you want to go. And as the owner or as an officer in the firm, you all are the ones taking the risk and you really deserve the reward. And so what we want to help you do today is focus on the who. Dan Sullivan has a great new book out called Focus on the Who, Not the How, which if you haven't read it, it's a short read, but it's really excellent. So we want to talk about how to hire, retain, and compensate top talent, because again, this is where your continued success and your new successes are going to come from. So the first thing, this is a quote from Brad Smart, who wrote a book called Top Grading. I'm sure most people are familiar with top grading. Great companies, large and small, rise or fall because of their talent. The more high performers on your team, the more successful your organization will be. It's pretty clear, and it's become really clear to us over the years that this is an absolute constant within the industry. So again, we've always known the team is the thing. I was an actress. I went to SMU for a year and studied acting, and I've read about every Shakespeare play and been in half of them. And the play is the thing is from Hamlet, and so this is a play on the team is the thing. But the team really is the thing. And study after study shows that the better your team, the higher the probability you will reach your goals. We've got clients. I see a couple of our clients on here who can attest to that. They know directly that having the best players just changes the scope. It changes the dynamics of your firm so dramatically. And I think what happens is it's kind of like putting on weight, right? So you put on 5 pounds here and you put on 5 pounds there and you don't really notice it. It just sort of becomes the norm. Having mediocre players or less than A players is kind of one of those things, just kind of creeps up on you, and then it just becomes the norm. And so this is why it's important to understand your team's strengths and weaknesses. Do they possess the skill sets you need? And we're going to talk about how to do that a little bit later on. And then A players that have the mindset of an A player, that's going to translate through everything they do. So challenges we observed during the recent COVID-19 lockdown. So last year, of course, about this time, everybody went into lockdown, everybody went home. I have clients that are still working from home. So some of the challenges we observed were getting everyone set up from home, keeping your team on the same page. And we still have a couple of firms that are struggling with these virtual cultural issues it's just an ongoing thing we need to work through. Staying on track with your strategic goals, and then just the owners feeling comfortable with the setup. It just was a very unusual thing to have to do. But I would say most of our clients did a really good job. And having tech in the cloud contributed greatly to the success of that. So Brian's going to pop up a little survey here. It's just 7 questions. So if we could get you guys to just go through these questions real quickly, we'll share it with you. It's basically just the questions you see on my screen. So if you guys could take just a couple of questions, it's just yes, no, or not sure, or maybe, and then we'll share these results with you. So 30% of you felt there were productivity issues. 20% were not sure. So half and half. Half of you or thought either you weren't sure or yes, there were productivity issues. You definitely, 40% of you saw yes or maybe on cultural issues. And I think that that's a really big one, and it was a difficult one to solve. You sometimes felt a lack of trust. So only 40% of you it's either said yes or maybe, which is great. You felt the need to micromanage. Again, 40% of you, yes or maybe. You lack control over your time, 50-50 on yes or maybe versus no. And you were not experiencing the quality of life. 50% of you said, yeah, you were not experiencing the quality of life that you were hoping, and you were experiencing some turnover. Only 30% of you, actually only 10% of you said yes. So that's great. So you were able to hang on to your people. So the reason that I wanted to do this poll is because, again, this goes back to the A player mindset. When you have A players, once you sent them home, it should have reduced your stress level, and you should have been able to continue many of the things that you were doing, because that mindset just translated. It went right from your office to their homes. So what does an A player look like? You guys can read these. I'm not real big on reading what's on slides. The most important one, I think, is the bottom right-hand corner. If you could clone them, you would. There's always somebody, or there's usually somebody in every office where you go, you look at them and you go, man, if I had 10 of those people. That's important. It's important that you identify are the characteristics of that person that you would clone, because that's how you're going to find your future A players, having that knowledge. So where do I start to put my A team in place, right? So you want to articulate your core values. What are your cultural values within your firm that these A players need to also understand and value? If they don't know what you value, it's going to be very difficult for them to perform in the way that you want them to perform. We need to clearly define job roles and responsibilities. And that's a little bit different than a job description, because in many firms, employees wear multiple hats. So we like to do roles and responsibilities instead of job descriptions. And I'll show you that a little bit later. We want to assess your current team members. We want you to have a proven hiring process. We're not going to spend any time on that, except to say that there's a link on our website and on both websites that you can go and actually just download our process. Obviously, it would need to be tweaked for your firm. And if you want to use our process as a starting point, again, please just set up a call with Brian. He can walk you through it and tweak it for your firm. But it's very important that you have a consistent, well thought out, proven hiring process, and then that you have a well articulated compensation strategy. So articulating your firm's core values, what are they? So they're your timeless and guiding principles. And I know some of my clients are on this call and they're thinking to themselves, oh yes, we just went through this exercise and it can be a little bit painful. But I think when you come out on the other side, it's well worth it. You want to limit them to somewhere between 3 and 7. 2 is not enough to convey. 20 is just overwhelming. When applied, it will weed out the people who don't fit in your firm. Once they're defined, you must hire, fire, review, reward, and recognize based on these core values. They're going to drive everything that you do with your employees. And they most likely have just been lost in the day-to-day chaos. So how do you start these? We suggest that you list 3 people, if you can find 3 people in your firm that you would clone, or 3 people that you know outside of your firm, maybe a center of influence, maybe even a family member, somebody else that you worked with before, that you would clone, and list the characteristics of those individuals. Just get a big white sheet of paper, put it up on the wall and start listing them down. Post-it, we love them. They sell these huge 3 by 4 foot Post-it notes. We love to just stick them up on the wall when we're working with clients. Narrow the list down to 3 to 7 that reflect the firm. And you're going to have a lot that can be combined because they're going to come out very similar. I like to call it, just simmer on it for 30 days. Chew on it. I always say to my clients, let's just chew on it for a few days, right? So chew on it for 30 days. Once you're good with them, then make sure you communicate them to the rest of the team. So here's some examples of characteristics. And again, I'm not going to read through them. These are characteristics that I just sort of combine these from different ones that some of my clients have identified. A lot of them are pretty obvious, right? But again, it's okay if they're obvious. They don't have to be unique, or they don't have to be out of the box, or they just have to reflect what's important to you, so that you're identifying before you go to hire, before you go to assess, that you're identifying what is important to you in the firm. So examples of some core values. Again, these are a compilation. I'm sure some of the clients that are on here recognize a few of their core values. We always do what we say we're going to do. We strive to grow personally and professionally. Several of my clients, personal learning is extremely important. And if that's important to you and your firm, you want to make sure you identify that. We always make decisions based on our client's best interest. We respect each other. We have fun. We enjoy working with each other. We anticipate issues and bring resourceful solutions. And I like the last one, and I think that one of my clients who's on here is going to recognize this one. Our personal work lives are in harmony, and I think it's really important. It's a very important core value to me, and I think if you choose that as a core value, you want to make very sure then that you structure your firm so that your employees do have personal and work life harmony, that they're not working 60, 70 hours a week, that, there may be some other benefits you want to put in, whether it be, flexible schedules. So again, these are all personal to you as a firm owner and, something that you do need to give some time to. So again, when I talked about job roles and responsibilities earlier, I said this is different from an org chart or different from job descriptions, right? Because in smaller firms, individuals are going to often wear many different hats. So what I would suggest you do is the column on the right-hand side lists several different roles within a firm. Visionary is very important that you list that as a role, because if somebody's not spending time being a visionary, it's going to be very hard to move your firm forward. So take the time to list out the roles or list out the jobs or roles that you have within your firm. And then what I want you to do is, and this is a mind map that I created. It's not really magic. I'd be happy to share it with anybody. I know it's probably hard to see, but as you can see, when I talk about roles versus job descriptions, an advisor, so the owner advisor, their unique ability, is going to be the visionary, but they're also a senior wealth manager and they're also doing business development. And the reason I like this format in a mind map is that, again, it allows you to incorporate many different roles into, or many different job responsibilities into that one role. So this is a living, breathing document that should be changed as you move forward, but it just helps you identify who's going to be doing what within the firm. Now, you could theoretically turn these into job descriptions, but again, you may have in one firm, the owner advisor may be the only visionary. In another firm, you may have an owner advisor and one senior wealth advisor who's a visionary and the other one is not. So again, that's why I prefer this format a little bit more. So we want to assess the team. And when we come into a new retainer job, this is the first thing we do because we have to understand, number one, if the right individuals are on the bus, and number two, if they're on the bus but they're in the wrong seats, and make those adjustments. Because again, there's very little we can do to help our clients make any kind of real substantial changes until we have the right people on the bus in the right seats. So I would say 90 to 95% of our retainer clients start right here at this step. We use the caliper assessment. We have a page in here that just shows you. We ask them to send us some information. There are other assessments out there. If you're interested in learning about the caliper assessment, we'd love to talk to you about it. If you've used it in the past, it's completely changed in the last few years. We subscribe now to their analytics, which gives us a tremendous amount of data on behaviors and very specific skill sets. And I don't want you to think that we make our ultimate decisions using just an assessment. We've had situations where somebody came back with a great caliper and the client said, yeah, you know what, that's not who they are here. It's not a good fit. So again, we use these with a lot of other information that we're taking in, including talking to the staff member themselves. So the caliper assessment, again, I'm not going to go through this. You can see this came from them, and this just shows you what we like about the caliper, why we've used it for years. And again, their expansion into more analytics has helped us raise the bar substantially on our hires. So again, if you can come back and look at this, but there's DISC and there's Strengths Finders and there's all kinds of great things out there. So this is the hard part, right? You have to then step back and take a good hard look at your team members. And you may discover you have some team members who just don't exemplify your core values or possess the skill set you need. it doesn't make them bad people. It just makes them a bad fit for your firm. And so you may have to make a tough decision here. I think Dan Sullivan actually has another book, and I'll try to post it out as one of the resources about how to let people go. But we have some ideas too if you need to do that. If you decide you need to let someone go, you can give them a generous severance package. You can extend health insurance. You can pay for a resume and job search firm. You can write a great recommendation letter. What we always suggest to our clients is if we feel like we need to let somebody go, let's do it now for a number of reasons. Number one, the job market is still very strong in the financial services industry. We don't know how long that's going to last, obviously. And number two, the chances are if you have somebody in your firm that doesn't fit in for one reason or another, they know it. They're not ignorant to this, and they're feeling a lot of stress being in a position that they're not right for. And so they may just need a nudge from you to go on to something that's better for them. So again, here's a link right here. You can just go to tsirecruiting.com. The hiring process is right on there. It downloads into a PDF. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Again, if it doesn't fit your firm right now, give Brian a call, get on his calendar. We've got Calendly links on both of our websites. We'll walk you through it. No charge, give you an hour of our time. We're more than happy to do that and customize it for your firm so that you can be off and running. That's how important it is that you get this hiring process correct. The most important components of the hiring process are know what you're hiring for before you start. Do not start hiring unless you have a job description or roles in place or skill sets in place that you want to hire for. Be systematic in your interview process. What do we mean by that? Ask every candidate the same questions so that you're comparing apples to apples and can make your assessments that way. Stick to your process. Don't hire for the person, hire for the position. I can't tell you how many times we've had a great candidate come across our desk who, let's say we're hiring for a CSA and we get a great associate advisor come across our desk who says, oh, I would love to do the CSA role and then, move up in a year or two. Trust me when I tell you they're not going to be happy. They're going to be looking for something else right away. If you need a CSA, hire a CSA. Now, if you have another position for an associate advisor, or they're just so good that you want to create a position for that, we're not going to discourage you from doing that, but we're always going to encourage you to hire for the position that you're hiring for. And then have an onboarding process and a training schedule. The number one reason that new employees leave a job is that they're not properly trained. When we do hires with our clients, the last part of our hiring process is to help our clients put a training process in place. That's again how important that is. So those are just things to think about before you even start your hire. So the last thing we want to talk about is building your compensation strategy. So these are the different areas of the compensation strategy: creating your philosophy, defining your roles, understanding your behaviors, hiring the right people, and deciding compensation. We've talked about 2, 3, and 4. We've hit on 2, 3, and 4. I want to talk about 1 and 5 now. So when you create your compensation philosophy, again, this is very similar to thinking about your core values. And these are some examples of some of the clients that we've worked with. So where do you want to be in the market? Do you want to pay in the first quartile? Do you want to pay in the median? Do you want to pay in the top quartile? How do you want to have the comp affect the firm, right? So if you're going to be adding if you're going to be doing a profit sharing and you're going to be adding employees down the road, you want to think about those things before you build that compensation. How am I going to build in room for other employees and still leave a piece for me? We're going to reward performance, behavior, and contribution. So base salary is for what the employee does on a day-to-day basis. Other incentive compensation is for things over and above. We always have our clients define every quarter. Each employee has an initiative or a rock if they're following the traction, which we also work with our clients to implement, that they are responsible for completing, and their compensation is going to be tied to the completion of that initiative or rock. So again, it's very important, and it just helps move the firm forward in a very positive way. So again, these are some compensation philosophy samples. You want to sit down, think about them. You can Google compensation philosophies. You can get a lot of different ideas, but make sure they're yours. Make sure they fit the way you think about compensation in your firm. So what are you trying to accomplish with your comp plan? Is it retention? Is it accountability? Is it to motivate certain behaviors? Is it to think like an owner? It could be all of the above. But again, those need to be communicated, right, about what's important to the firm. So when you're going, after you build your compensation plan, part of what we have, or part of what we help our clients design, is to show the employees, this is why we did this. We want to retain you. We want to keep everybody accountable. We want people to be proactive. We want you to think like an owner. So again, it's very important to understand what you're trying to accomplish with your compensation plan. And then again, I really like this second sentence here, and this is from Mark Tiberghien and Rebecca Pomeroy's Practice Made More Perfect. Fill in the blank in this sentence. And I just think this is so simple, but such a great way to get started. If I do more of X, I can make more money. So what are the things that I need to do more of as an employee to make more money? And I think that's also going to help you with trying to figure out what you want to accomplish. If there's certain behaviors that you want, it's going to help you if you can fill in that sentence. If Joe does more of this, he can make more money, right? So if Joe develops more business, if Joe has a higher client retention, if Joe, adds a new service to our model, again, whatever that might be, that's going to help people understand what they need to do to be rewarded. And it's going to help you figure out what your strategy looks like. So again, a lot of this is taken from Mark's book, Mark and Rebecca's book. I just kind of think it's the Bible, especially when it comes to compensation. You've got base pay, short-term incentives, long-term incentives, benefits, retirement plans, equity comp. So those are kind of the key things that are that can be included. This is again from Mark's book, and I find this very interesting. So one of the things that I want to note is that the only thing that hits on all three, attraction, retention, and motivation, is going to be equity. Now, does that mean you have to offer equity to everybody? No, it does not. But it certainly means you should be considering equity for your highest performers in your firm. And again, when you go to build your compensation plan, you want to keep that in mind. So there's some examples of some long-term incentives down here. I don't like bonuses because they're discretionary and the employee has very little control over them. Short-term incentives are a much higher motivator and also better for retention. I don't know how much they affect attraction because I'm not sure how much a new employee can really envision what that might look like unless you relay that out in their offer letter, which you can always do. But again, you might not want to do that to somebody right off the street. So again, I like the fact that I love the fact that this was laid out and you can really see what is attracting, retaining, and motivating employees. And it's a very important slide in here. So incentive pay based on performance, right? It's performance-based pay. So you exceed your personal goals. It's tied to a specific behavior. It can be tied to the performance of the firm. But again, you get this, you know that you're going to get this if the firm does this and if I do this. It's known, it's not discretionary. You can see that bonuses that are discretionary typically do not drive behavior, again, because the employee has no idea what it's tied to. It's really just sort of tied to the owner's, feeling on that particular day, right? And so again, I think this is really super important to make this distinction here between bonuses and incentive pay. And then profit sharing, again, can be tied to the firm's profitability goals. Profit sharing and incentive pay can be tied together and both tied to goals and both tied to the performance of the firm. They're both way more motivating than any kind of discretionary bonus. Compensation plans are not static. They should be reviewed every year. They may need to take into account the status of the state of the hiring marketplace. The hiring marketplace is very tight right now. We continue to see that. Yes, Schwab is laying off some people. TD Ameritrade is laying off some people. We expect to see more. We are encouraging more advisors to consider permanently remote positions because it's giving us a much broader group of candidates to look at. But the tighter the market, the more competitive we're going to have to be. And that's just something advisors need to remember, that this is an area where you really get what you pay for, and it's not where you want to save money. You don't want to look at this as an expense. You want to look at this as an investment in where you want your firm to go and the quality of life that you want. We have an advisor who spends, he's based on Long Island. He spends 6 months out of the year in Florida. We have an advisor who is just finishing up 2.5 months in Palm Springs. These are advisors who have the top players in place. These people do what it takes to get the job done. And these advisors are living their highest quality of life. So here's some of the resources I mentioned. Caliper, EOS is Gino Wickman, his traction book, which I would encourage all of you to read if you have not. Here's our recruiting website, and then Practice Made More Perfect. Again, another just fantastic book if you've not already read it. So I wanted to let you know before I wrap up that we are going to be rolling out a service, a standalone service in the next few weeks to help advisors do everything here I just described. So you won't have to be a retainer client to get this help from us. We're going to have it up on the website it's just as soon as we polish it a little bit more. And we'll let everybody know when it's available. And if anyone would like to have us come alongside them and help them with this, we would be very honored to do so. Brian, are there any questions that I need to answer?
Oh, there is one question. The presentation and the slides will be available later this week.
They will. Absolutely, they will.
And I believe, and I don't want to spill the beans, but with the new standalone service, we're going to offer an introductory price.
We are.
So
absolutely.
For the first, how many did we say? I think
3 months, 6 months. I don't know.
So it's going to be cheaper for everybody. The sooner you can get on that. So I just wanted to add that too.
All right, good deal. Thank you again so much for your time today. We know how valuable it is. We appreciate it. Please, please, please feel free to reach out to us. We're not trying to sell you anything. We only want to work with people who value our services and where it's a good fit. But we do love talking to advisors, hearing about the challenges that you're facing. And we can frequently give you 1 or 2 takeaways in an hour call that can help get you back on the path. So please take us up on that. Thanks again, and we'll look forward to speaking with you guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.